Meanwhile, at Manage Comics, coming to you from a secret underground lair, these dedicated heroes discuss the business of comics, industry news, comic book retail issues, and the latest developments from Manage Comics. They are promoters of comics, champions of small business, and four-color heroes. They are the Manage Comics team. Hey folks, welcome to Meanwhile at Manage Comics, episode 8. And this week was going to be about Google Analytics, but I'm going to bump that to next week. I'm doing some stuff with it. I've set it up on a site, and I kind of need some data before I go and show any reports. Reports without data are kind of useless. So give me about a week, maybe two. We'll see. I may have a special episode next week in mind, and we'll see. So yeah, it will most likely be next week, but it could be 2 weeks before we get to the Google Analytics. We've got until kind of mid-June before this stuff starts getting phased out anyway, so I think we're okay. But in the meantime, we've released a whole bunch of updates recently, and a couple of those updates have caused some issues. So I thought it would be a good idea to go over some of those updates. We're not going to take a whole ton of time. This won't be a super long episode, but I think it is a valuable episode. So we're going to start out with our recent blog post, which was called Manage Comics Q1 2023 - Quality of Life Updates. Very exciting title for this blog post. So rather than tackling a big project at the beginning of 2023, we decided to take all of our small fixes and bundle them up into a series of releases that we would produce over the first 3 months of the year. We're currently working on a whole ton of Geek Fetch updates, which will incorporate into this. We also found a really interesting bug this week that we're going to kind of work on, and hopefully it will address double products in the system. So without further ado, let's get right into so we're going to go kind of reverse chronological order. This is something that we just released last week. Pre-order auditing, FOC sorting, and pagination fixes. So if I go here, this is going to be, so when you're in customer activity and you click on approved and accepted pre-orders, you're going to start to see all this stuff get filled out. So we have now approved, placed by, we have status information. We have accepted dates. So these are the date that the customer accepted it. And if you click on any of these approved statuses, you'll be able to actually see a bunch of information about it. So you'll see that the order was created by Brian Garside, that the status was changed to approved by the admin. If it's something that the customer has to accept, then you'll actually see when the customer accepted the item as well. And all of these dates are tied in with the actual activity on the website. So yeah, we think that this is going to give us a lot more transparency into when things were accepted and declined and such. You'll also see declined pre-orders, which you can return back to pending. So those have remained kind of unchanged. So yeah, that is our latest addition to the pre-orders section, which includes, of course, status history and stuff like that. We also changed some of the sorting so that you can now sort pre-orders by date or customer name, as well, I believe, as where is it? So pre-orders, yeah, I can sort these by customer name or when they were approved, and even when they were not when they were accepted, just when they were approved, placed, or customer name. I think we're going to add by title as well, so you'll be able to find all of the similar titled pre-orders. Moving along, as a store on FOC updates, I would like sorting by vendor to be vendor, then description. So if we click on FOC weekly updates, when I change the sorting here to quantity, if I go to vendor name, it now sorts by vendor and then by title. If I go to title, it just sorts by title straight up. That's the first, I think. So I can vendor name, and then it goes vendor and description. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to find things. If you're looking for all the boom in order, it'll be found a little bit quicker. As a Managed Comics store, the pagination on my Managed Comics pages should use my colors. So this was a problem for dark colored themes, especially, that these weren't showing up. We just noticed a problem that if somebody has this secondary color set to like a light color, this won't, the numbers won't show up. So we're going to just do a small tweak to add kind of a background color around the number at the bottom. But yeah, that should be done like probably next week, fairly soon. But as it is, dark themes now work pretty nicely with Managed Comics, and we're inheriting our own theme colors. Way back in February, we added initial orders changes and a Shopify default location. This was actually causing some problems, the Shopify default location. Apparently, Shopify has deactivated locations still in your database. And so in some cases, we were getting that detected as your default location. So if you just go in there and change that, and I think we've addressed this with all the shops that had this, yeah, you're good to go. So up first, though, is when you're doing your initial orders for PRH, you would like to be able to copy the info from a text box. So I believe that is this file here. So I'm in the March 2023 Penguin Random House initial orders. And as always, I'm always going to refresh my orders in the bottom left-hand corner just to make sure that I have the latest information from subscriptions and everything. And then I generate a PRH order. So this now has all of my PRH information, which I can copy to text and then paste directly into the Penguin Random House thing. And it only shows you things with greater than 0 quantity. So it's a really simple little upload. So yeah, that's that guy. And then as a store, I would like to choose the default location in Shopify where check-ins get populated to. So we've decided that we're going to really simplify how we deal with multi-store going forward. And we're just going to upload everything to a default location. And then you can fool around with transfers and everything in Shopify, because honestly, Shopify is better suited for transfer changes and everything than Managed Comics is, and you get a lot more tracking within. If you're using something like what's it called, Stocky. If you're using Stocky, you're going to get a lot better kind of transfer history and stuff like that out of that. So by default, it should be picking your actual warehouse, your actual default location up here. If your default location was previously set to an inactive location and you didn't set a default location in Shopify itself, and Shopify just defaulted it to the new default location, this could potentially be your old default location, which I realize is super confusing. But anyway, go through here and make sure that this is set to your default location when you start up. So it's in settings, and then it's on your first tab just below the terms of service. Up next, so our old classic users had a special CSV download that they could then use to import into other systems. A couple of our stores were using different points of sale, and they needed this file in order to move over. So we just made this available. So on your pulls by date, you'll now see 2 different CSV downloads in the upper left-hand corner. The download full data CSV file has got just more information than the regular CSV. This has stuff about customer information and pricing and just a little more detail, which folks needed. Up next, way back in February, we added universal distribution to our list of items that can be checked in. They don't have the CSV available for public consumption yet, but we had some sample files that we used to do this. As a store, the active subscription count is wrong on all customers' pages and displays the incorrect discount. So we went ahead and fixed that, and I'll show you what that looks like. So first of all, let's jump into an upload invoice. So if you had a CSV invoice from Universal, that would definitely show up here, show up with all the information if you import it in here. I don't have one handy, but if I did, I could pull it in here and it'll go out and generate just like it does for Diamond, Lunar, or Penguin Random House. The next thing was these numbers here under subscriptions and the standard discount were displaying incorrectly on the all customers page, but they were still calculating correctly. So we were actually calculating everything based on the actual active subscriptions. If I go into Luke Cage here and I delete a subscription, let's delete Hulk. He doesn't want Hulk anymore. And then I go back to all subscriptions. We're going to immediately see that it's 19 and 10. So all that stuff gets taken care of. And my discount tiers will now go into effect immediately as soon as I go below a threshold. So yeah, that is now updating. As a store, initial order, the Diamond upload should only show. Wow, that's terribly. As a store, on initial orders, the Diamond, Lunar, Penguin, Random House upload should only show items with quantity. So for a while there, and I don't know if this was always the case, those things at the bottom were actually showing items with zeros. They have to for FOCs because obviously there's a situation when we can change something from a 1 to a 0. But for initial uploads, we should only be uploading things that have a quantity of 1 or more. As a customer, I would like alt and title information to be added to all front-end links. So we just went ahead and if I go back one page and we mouse over something, you'll see a little thing comes up that says 007 for King Country. Number 1, cover Sea Hill. This just gives us, we've just added alt and title text information so that screen readers can read all of the pages on Manage Comics a little bit better. As a store, when an order errors out, I would like to be able to regenerate the order. So if an order ended up erroring out, we just jumped it into the error tab, but now you can regenerate this order. So I think if I go to customer orders, and then I look for something that has errored, I can now go back into that errored item. I think I have to do it on specific ones. All right, I put Bruce Wayne, and I can revert that Bruce Wayne order back to pulled. And then from pulled, I can now generate an order. So we couldn't do that previously, but now you can go back and generate something when something errors out. As a store, I do not want unapproved items showing up on customer lists. So this was just a confusing thing that was happening with customer lists. When I was on a customer list, items that they had pre-ordered but weren't approved were showing up in the pre-orders tab. So they don't show up there anymore. They'll only be in customer activity for now. And then finally, the last 2 items are going to be as a store. I would like to print out a customer list or a pull list. So if we go to, this is a pull list. So if I right click on it and say print, I don't know if you'll see this because I feel like this is actually a different modal window. Let's see. Yeah, you can't see it. So I wonder if I can pull it down. Bear with me for a second. So I have pulled that subscription list down. Let's see if I can open up a new tab and dump that in here. There we go. So now it creates a nicely formatted, printable list that's pretty clean. And then the same thing happens with our customer list. If I wanted to print this guy out, I could right click print, and it'll print out all the active, pre-order, and inactive subscriptions. We've had requests that we hide inactive subscriptions on this page. We'll probably go ahead and do that so that you don't necessarily see those up front. Maybe have them on a different tab or something like that. So that's kind of what we've done for the first quarter of 2023. Like I said, we're working on a bunch of GeekFetch changes right now. We're working on a whole ton of data changes. We're working with an entire group on data, and hope to have that stuff done in the next few weeks. Some of the things that we're changing, we are starting to generate our own series codes out of the UPC, which will allow us to tie one-shots together. We're going to generate some different UP or ISBN numbers. Right now, we're relying on each one of the publishers to provide the ISBN in a very specific way, but those ISBNs aren't always consistent. So we're going to start creating our own consistent ISBNs. Let's see, what else are we working on? There is a bunch of changes around how we sort things for our end, which just means that instead of it taking 10 minutes to update a bunch of titles, it'll take us a minute, which just, means that we can do more stuff. We're also changing some of the views for us so that we can see more information at a glance. And then after that, immediately after that will be a UK pricing matrix so that we can help our UK friends price their comic stuff easier. And then I believe next after that is either major front end changes, or it could be storylines. And I think storylines will be next, because we're getting into the time when, the big summer storylines start getting announced. So I'd like to have that done, which will then tie into us changing the front end, which is going to have to happen for storylines anyway. So yeah, we'll get those things done. So like I said at the beginning, this was going to be a fairly tight and short, meanwhile, 18 minutes, not too bad. So that's going to do it for this week. Like I said, next week will either be our analytics, or if I don't have enough analytics data yet, we might go into a data talk. And then the week after next will be whichever one of those we don't do. So we will see you in the meantime and in between times. Keep selling those comics. Thanks.